I have been gathering up a few things to share with you about the Homeschool Mama Book Club. I'm in my greenhouse right now and I'm looking around thinking there are a lot of spiders in here, but that's what happens when it gets warm and there's a lot of heat and dry and light. It's a beautiful place to be. Not sure it's beautiful for Instagram lives. Don't look close. But this is my greenhouse, and the reason I'm here is because I want to talk about books. We're going to talk about books. And you can totally tell that I'm a homeschool mom because, check this out. Do you recognize these names? Jane Bennett, Catherine Bennett, Lydia Bennett, Elizabeth Bennett, from one of my very favorite books. Want to guess? Pride and Prejudice. Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice. That's why I can be known as Twain Austen online sometimes. Mark Twain and Jane Austen, two of my favorite classical authors. And I am creating these signs for my chickens, of course. So soon we're going to have a portfolio of all the chickens with their names and their faces so that we can remember who they are, because that's important, right? And it's just fun. I love books, I love reading, I love Jane Austen. Do you know that I didn't always? Until I was 17, you almost couldn't force me to read a book. I did not have much time for reading when I was younger. Hard to believe, because I read up a storm and I have read so many books since then. I've made up for lost time. I'm always reading. I would love to hear what you're reading on the beach this month, this week, if you're still heading to the pool or if you've already started your homeschool, but I want to hear about what you're reading. I'll show you a couple of the things that I've been reading. One, usually in the summer, I'm doing something kind of summer reading, but I always like a certain genre. And this one is The Last Garden in England by Julia Kelly. And this one I find really easy to read. Once a year, I choose one poetry book, and this year I chose Rumi. Have you heard of the Sufi poet? I'll bet that even if you don't recognize the name, you probably would recognize some of his poetry. So I had to know who really is Rumi, and I wanted to come with my own conclusions. I finished reading a book with my 12-year-old son, and I am just finishing up The Artist's Way, all about creativity and infusing creativity, encouraging creativity in our lives. And I'm doing that with my 18-year-old before she leaves for ballet school in the fall. And A New Earth. I'm also reading A New Earth. It's About Time, an Eckhart Tolle book. I create niches throughout the day to read. That is what I do. I love it. It is truly nourishing for me. And I have learned this over the course of time. There have been some very profound moments for me with books and things that authors had to say. And one of the things that I think is so important for us, which I talk on repeat, is about how we want to show up in our homeschools. And we can choose to show up in our homeschools intentionally when we actually have the right mindset, or we have a perspective that's useful, or sometimes we reframe the challenging thoughts that we have in here. And that can happen partly because we can sit with our challenging emotions, but also because we're actually reading good stuff and getting challenged by, say, a mentor or a friend or a coach or a book, an author. And so once a month, for probably from September to April or May, we're going to have a Homeschool Mama book club, and you are invited. There is a link above that you can access. You can join that. Make sure you go through the entire process. It's a $5 purchase, which means that you're helping to support the actual platform that helps to host the coffee club. We'll call it a coffee club for now until you tell me all that you don't drink coffee. But we're going to join September to April once a month. This month, we're going to start with Brené Brown. Brené Brown was someone that had a major impact on my homeschool. If you've heard my story, you know why. And it was a book, not personally. I continue to ask her to be on my podcast. Not sure that's going to happen. But hopefully one day, cross fingers, it will. So from September to April, we're going to have a monthly book club. You'll be able to bring the books that you've been reading and chat about the ones that you are already reading and share that with the homeschool moms. But also we're going to have a discussion about how that particular author, the one that we're focusing on that month, actually has an impact on our homeschools and how we can show up intentionally in our homeschools. And I'm really excited. First of all, because I want to meet a bunch of you. And I know there are a few of you that are following faithfully, and I have seen your name throughout the last couple years. I could say it out loud, but that wouldn't be appropriate. But I know who you are, and I would love to actually really meet you. So that's an opportunity for us to connect. But it's also what I love, and I know that a lot of you do too. There's a mom that I'm working with right now that she's always pulling out excellent quotes from books that get me thinking that there's another book to read. Love it. So I'm going to share with you the Homeschool Mama reading list. You can access that free in the link in my bio. Download that and see which books I'm actually possibly going to be talking about. I would love if you would hashtag the books that you're reading this summer, no matter what they are. They can be kids' storybooks. They can be random things that you're like, I don't know if I really want to share this. I'm curious. I'd love to see what you're reading. So hashtag Homeschool Mama Book Club. And last thought that I had was, remember that you challenge your thoughts when you go outside of your thoughts. You have to actually look at your thoughts objectively, which, as you and I both know, is a really challenging thing to do. So one of the ways that we can do it is by actually learning from other people. So check out that reading list. You can even buy a few of those books through Amazon, and actually it will support me in the process of creating this Homeschool Mama Book Club. But the last thing I want to know is, what book do you think that we should talk about in the Homeschool Mama Book Club? So I'm going to get out of this very, very hot greenhouse and get my book and bring it down to the river and hang out for a little longer, because I got a few weeks before our official homeschool year begins. We'll talk to you soon.